I knew something was off the second I stepped onto the ship. We were supposed to be celebrating our 5th wedding anniversary. A family cruise with her parents, her brother Mason, his wife, and a bunch of her so-called friends tagging along. Julia, my wife, had planned it all. She said it would reignite the spark, that I'd been working too much and needed to disconnect. I should have known right then. When a woman like Julia wants you to disconnect, it's not because she loves you. It's because she wants to mess with your head while you're blindfolded. The room I was assigned to? A literal broom closet. No windows, no ventilation, the kind of room that made you question your life choices after 2 minutes inside. I stood there with my suitcase, staring at the bed that looked like it was meant for a child, trying to convince myself it was a mistake. Meanwhile, Julia was posting stories on Instagram from a goddamn penthouse suite. Her mom, her dad, her brother and sister-in-law, all clinking champagne flutes on a balcony that overlooked the sea. I wasn't tagged in a single post. Just smiles, cleavage, and captions like, "So grateful for my ride or dies kiss mark." I wasn't one of them. And I wasn't stupid. Later that day, I found her by the pool. She was wearing that red bikini I'd bought her last year for our anniversary trip to Miami. But she didn't wear it for me this time. She wore it for attention. And she was getting it from every guy within 100 feet. Her friend Casey was beside her, laughing with that fake laugh she does when she's talking crap. I caught bits of their conversation as I approached. "He doesn't suspect anything," Casey smirked. Julia's voice came next, slick like oil. "He's too busy being a corporate robot. Honestly, I could sneak someone into the room, and he'd probably ask if they needed Wi-Fi." That was the first stab. I didn't say anything. I just walked away and locked myself in that broom closet, thinking maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing. But no, the second stab came when I tried to log into my work laptop the next morning. Blue screen. Corrupted files. Gone. I was in charge of a high-stakes presentation due remotely that afternoon. Without that laptop, I'd be risking my job. And that's when I saw her friend Lily walk by my open door, smirking, whispering to Casey just loud enough for me to hear, "Guess he's fired now." That was no accident. That was a trap. And while I sat there trying to contact IT support with ship Wi-Fi slower than a dead snail, I heard laughter echoing down the hall. Julia's laugh. Not with me. Never with me anymore. Always at me. I almost packed my bags then and there. But something stopped me. A knock on my door. I opened it to find the captain of the ship standing there in full uniform. "Mr. Carter?" Yes." He gave me a respectful nod. "There's been a change in your accommodations. If you'll follow me." I didn't question it. I followed. Through corridors, up a private elevator, and then we stepped into the penthouse suite. Marble floors. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A hot tub. A stock bar. And a bed big enough to fit a small army. "This is yours for the remainder of the trip," he said with a half-smile. "Courtesy of the company you just saved last quarter. CEO's orders." That's when I remembered my boss's wife had connections with the cruise line. Julia never thought they'd pull strings for me. When I walked out onto the balcony, drink in hand, I saw them, Julia and her little crew, frozen by the pool as they spotted me waving from above. Her face turned pale. Casey's jaw dropped. Lily nearly dropped her drink. I'd just gone from fired loser in a janitor's closet to top-floor king with the last laugh, and they knew it. And that's when I decided, if she wanted to play games, she picked the wrong opponent. Because this wasn't just a cruise anymore. This was war. Part 2, Discovery, coming next. The moment their faces dropped, I felt something I hadn't in years control. Not love. Not pride. Just cold, quiet power. Julia scrambled to throw on a cover-up and started toward the private elevator. I knew she'd come. That type of woman doesn't like losing the spotlight. Especially not to the man she's been quietly tearing down for months. I poured another drink and let her in when she knocked. She didn't say hi. Didn't ask how I got there. She just stood in the doorway, arms crossed like I owed her an explanation. "How did you get this suite?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I looked her dead in the eyes and took a sip. "You booked me a closet, Julia." She scoffed, rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "Oh, come on, Carter. It was the only room available when I booked." "Don't insult my intelligence." She tried again, softening her voice like she was some misunderstood angel. "Look, I didn't think you'd care. You hate cruises. I thought you'd want your own space to work or whatever." "You mean, away from your friends? The ones who sabotaged my laptop?" She blinked, caught. But still, she lied. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No." I stepped closer, calm but firm. Because they knew about the presentation. They laughed when the system crashed. Called me fired before I even told anyone what happened. She didn't even blink. Maybe they overheard you. Every word out of her mouth dripped with contempt. It wasn't even the lies anymore. It was the tone. The way she treated me like an idiot. Like I should apologize for noticing. For asking. I looked at her and realized something that felt like getting punched in the chest. I didn't recognize this woman. The Julia I married used to laugh with me, lean on me, need me. This version of her? She'd rather humiliate me than sit down and talk. And then, she said it. Why are you being so paranoid? You're acting crazy, Carter. You've been off for months, buried in work, ignoring me. Maybe if you'd actually been present, I wouldn't have had to spend so much time with my friends. There it was. Not a confession, but a hint. A twisted justification. I didn't raise my voice. I just asked, are you cheating on me? She flinched for half a second. Just one flicker in her eye. Then it was gone. No. But it wasn't a denial. It was a reflex. And she followed it with silence. I stared at her. Her tan lines were new. Her nails done a color I never saw before. There was a different scent on her, not perfume, something masculine. A cologne I'd smelled that morning on Mason when we crossed paths at breakfast. And that's when it clicked. It wasn't just a random fling. It wasn't some stranger at a bar or a flirtation with a bartender. It was someone close. Is it Mason? I asked, quietly. She didn't answer. Her jaw tightened. Jesus Christ, Julia. Don't you dare, she snapped. Don't you dare judge me like you're some perfect husband. I felt like your roommate for over a year. You're so obsessed with your job and your spreadsheets and your goddamn meal prep that you stopped seeing me. I laughed. It came out sharp, bitter. You're blaming me for you climbing into bed with your brother-in-law? I didn't say I slept with him. You didn't have to. She grabbed her phone, furious now. You're a psycho, Carter. You're obsessed with control. Maybe this sweet got to your head. You're acting delusional. And just like that, she stormed out. I stood there, drink in hand, heart beating like a war drum. And I knew, whatever we were before, whatever love once lived between us, it had died long before this cruise. She buried it beneath lies, manipulation, and crocodile tears. But this was the funeral. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in that massive bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the waves slap against the side of the ship. My brain was racing, replaying every moment of the last year like a film reel burning up from overuse. The night she came home late, the way her phone always stayed face down, how she stopped laughing at my jokes and started dressing up more, but never for me. And Mason, that smug, gym-addict bastard. Her brother-in-law. My brother-in-law. It all started making sense, the way she always defended him when I said he was a leech, the harmless little touches during family dinners, the way his wife Jenna would glance at them sometimes with this twitch in her eye, like she knew but couldn't say anything. I wanted to punch something, break something, rip the sheets off the bed and scream into the void. But I didn't. I sat still, processing. In the morning, I walked to the top deck. The sea was bright, too bright. The sun mocked me. Families and couples laughed around me like they weren't trapped in their own lies too. I saw Julia later at brunch with her little circle of witches. Casey, Lily, her mom Brenda, and Mason, of course, sitting a bit too close. Jenna was missing, probably crying somewhere. I wondered if she knew what I now knew. Julia caught my eye, and her smile dropped for a second, just a flicker, then she turned back to her mimosa like I didn't exist. It took everything in me not to grab Mason by the collar and throw him overboard. Instead, I walked up behind him and clapped a hand on his shoulder. He jumped like a guilty little rabbit. The whole table froze. Morning, everyone, I said with a calm I didn't feel. Nice view up here. Huh? They all muttered awkward greetings. Julia's mom looked like she wanted to say something nasty but didn't know where to start. I turned to Mason. Hey, man. Got a second? He nodded hesitantly, eyes flicking to Julia. She didn't stop him. Of course she didn't. She wanted to see how I'd handle it. Wanted to watch me spiral. But I wouldn't give her that. We walked a few steps away, just out of earshot. I know, I said simply. His whole body stiffened. Know what? I gave him a look that said, don't play dumb. I'm not going to cause a scene, I continued. Not yet. But I know what you've been doing. And I know she's not denying it. He opened his mouth, probably to deliver some pathetic excuse, but I cut him off. You've got until we dock to tell your wife. Or I will. And I promise you, Mason, I'll burn everything on my way out. He stared at me, pale as chalk, lips trembling. Then I walked away. That night, I found a flash drive tucked into the corner of the laptop bag, one I didn't recognize. I plugged it in cautiously. What I found: photos, screenshots, videos, emails. Somebody had been collecting receipts, and I had a pretty good idea who. It was Jenna. The emails between Julia and Mason were disgusting. Last night was wild. Carter has no idea. We should have done this years ago. One video was a shaky clip, looked like a security cam, of them sneaking into Julia's apartment while I was in Phoenix for work. Another was a selfie they took together, shirtless, wrapped in hotel sheets. And then it hit me. Jenna knew. She'd known for months. She wasn't crying anymore. She was preparing. Quietly. Carefully. Like me. The next day, I found her sitting by herself in the library, of all places. She looked up when she saw me, and her eyes didn't flinch. I figured you'd find it, she said before I even spoke. How long? 7 months, she whispered. I didn't want to believe it. But once I saw the texts, I couldn't unsee them. Why now? I asked. Because I'm done, she said. And I figured you should be too. I nodded. For once, someone else was on my side. We talked for a long time. And somewhere in that quiet corner of the ship, Jenna and I began building something neither of them ever expected. A war plan. Not out of revenge. Out of justice. Because I wasn't leaving this cruise quietly. And neither was she. 2 days before the ship was scheduled to dock, I started planting the seeds. I didn't scream. Didn't throw fists. Didn't drag her through the mud in front of her Botoxed friends. That would have been too easy. Too satisfying for her. Julia fed on drama like a vulture. She liked watching people unravel. So instead, I smiled. I was everywhere on that ship. By the bar, clinking glasses with the captain. At the casino, handing out chips to strangers like I just won the lottery. Laughing with Jenna by the pool, sitting just a little too close. Let them guess. Let Julia sweat in silence. The crew, by then, already knew something was off. A couple of them had seen the sweet switch. Word spread fast on ships. And when people asked why I got the Penthouse, I let them wonder. I told a few it was a honeymoon upgrade. Told others I was the CEO's brother. I even heard one of Julia's friends whisper, I think he's some kind of investor. Let the lies feed themselves. Julia started cracking. The more I ignored her, the more desperate she got. First came the subtle attempts, hey, Carter, want to grab a drink later? Then the guilt trips, you've been really distant this trip. What's going on? And then, pure gaslighting. You're acting crazy, Carter. Everyone's talking. You're embarrassing yourself. But she didn't know what I knew. That I'd already spoken to Jenna again. That Jenna had started forwarding emails to her lawyer. That screenshots of their little trysts, complete with hotel names, dates, and timestamps, were sitting in a folder marked Julia's Lies on my encrypted drive. That night, I slipped a printed photo into Julia's handbag, one of the selfies. Mason's arm around her bare shoulder. Her tongue between her teeth. Eyes rolled back. They looked like drunk teenagers playing house. She found it at dinner. Her fork clattered. Everyone stared. Her mom asked what was wrong, and Julia just sat there, shaking. I kept eating my steak. That same night, Jenna walked into the dining hall with a new dress. Black, elegant, confidence pouring off her in waves. She walked right past Julia's table and sat next to me. No words, just a kiss on my cheek and a glass of red wine. Julia stormed out seconds later. Mason followed. Like a dog chasing a car. I gave it 2 hours before the screaming started. We were on the upper deck when we heard it, Julia's voice shrieking down the corridor of their suite. Something about, you said no one would find out. And, you're ruining everything. The next morning, she was gone from the group. No breakfast selfie. No fake laughs by the pool. No bikini-clad sunbathing. Just silence. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up at my suite. Eyes swollen. Makeup smudged. No entourage. Just her. You planned this, didn't you? She hissed. I didn't answer. You think you're clever? Humiliating me in front of everyone. She was pacing now, frantic, all that fake confidence gone. You don't even care about what we had. What we had? I stood, calm but sharp. Julia, you killed what we had when you started screwing your sister's husband. She flinched like I'd slapped her. You've been dead to me for a long time, I continued. I just didn't want to admit it. But now, I'm wide awake. She tried to change the tone, lowered her voice, stepped closer. Look, maybe we can fix this. Maybe we just need to. Don't. She froze. You did this, I said, cold and clear. You booked me into a storage closet and smiled while your friends sabotaged my career. You laughed at me, lied to me. You paraded around this ship like I was just an inconvenience to tolerate. And now, you want what mercy? She opened her mouth but had nothing. You don't deserve mercy. You deserve consequences. Then I opened my laptop, turned it around, and hit play. It was a video. Mason and Julia. That same hotel room. Sound on. Her eyes filled with horror. I paused it right before the moment things got too graphic. This, I said, is already backed up in 4 different places. One of them belongs to Jenna's attorney. You're going to sign the divorce papers the second we're back on land. No contest. No drama. No alimony. You'll walk away clean, or you'll walk away publicly ruined. She looked like she might faint. And for once, she was silent. I closed the laptop. You brought this on yourself. Then I opened the door. She stood there for a moment. No comebacks. No fake tears. Just that look, the one liars get when the mask finally melts off. And then she left. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The last full day of the cruise felt like stepping into a different reality, one where I could breathe again. Jenna and I had breakfast together. Quiet, calm, no theatrics. She wasn't trying to fill the silence with forced cheer, and neither was I. It was honest. That strange kind of honesty that only exists between 2 people who've been betrayed by the same hands. I watched her stir her coffee, the ocean glowing behind her, and I realized how different she was from Julia. No manipulation, no games. Just quiet resilience. She didn't ask me what I was going to do when we docked. She already knew. The same thing she was doing. Burning it all down. The news had started spreading. Julia's disappearance from the social scene on the ship was noticed. Her friends whispered, not so quietly, that she was having a meltdown. Some already suspected the affair. Brenda, Julia's mother, cornered me outside the spa and hissed, "You're destroying this family, Carter." I didn't even stop walking. Just gave her a nod and kept moving. The kind of nod that says, maybe your daughter should have thought about that before climbing into her sister's husband's bed. I didn't need to defend myself anymore. The truth was doing that for me. I found Mason sulking by the bar later. Alone. Unshaven. Shirt wrinkled. He looked like someone had kicked him down a flight of stairs and then stolen his wallet. Good. He spotted me and stood up too quickly. His drink sloshed out over his hand. "You think this is over?" he muttered. I tilted my head. "You think it isn't?" He looked around like someone was listening, then leaned in, eyes red and wild. "You ruined my life." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "No, Mason. You ruined your life." I just handed everyone the flashlight. He tried to say something else, but I didn't care. I turned and walked away, just like Julia did every time she thought I was beneath her. Felt good to finally understand the satisfaction she must have gotten from that. Only difference? I wasn't walking away to cheat. I was walking away to heal. The final night, there was a farewell dinner. All the guests were invited. The captain gave a speech, couples took photos, music played. I went. Not for closure. For punctuation. Julia showed up, late, wearing a silver dress that sparkled under the chandeliers. The same one she wore the first time I told her I loved her. The irony made my jaw clench, but I didn't look away. She walked in like a ghost. Everyone saw her. No one acknowledged her. And then, Jenna entered. Confident, glowing, unbothered. She walked straight to me, looped her arm through mine, and smiled like we owned the damn ship. Julia froze in place. I saw her lips tighten, saw her knuckles go white around her champagne flute. But she didn't move. She just watched us walk past her like she was wallpaper. I could almost hear her thoughts screaming. How did I lose this? How did you win? And the answer was simple. She underestimated me. We danced that night. Not because Jenna and I were together, not yet, but because we were free. Free from the weight of lies and manipulation. Free from the poison they poured into our homes. Free from pretending everything was okay when it never was. The next morning, we docked. Jenna and I exchanged a quiet goodbye. We weren't rushing into anything. She had her own wounds to heal, and so did I. But we promised to keep in touch. And I believed her. Julia stood near the gangway, surrounded by her luggage, sunglasses covering her puffy eyes. Mason was nowhere in sight. I walked right past her. She didn't say a word, just stared straight ahead like I didn't exist. It was perfect. I got in the cab, leaned back in the seat, and looked out at the harbor disappearing behind me. That chapter was closed. Not neatly, not gently, but closed all the same. Back home, I filed for divorce immediately. I attached every file, every photo, Every screenshot. No negotiation. No mercy. And when her lawyer called, I let mine handle it. I had nothing left to say to her. Weeks passed. I started sleeping again. Eating better. I went back to the gym, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. It felt like waking up from a coma I hadn't known I was in. And one night, I got a message from Jenna. It was just a photo, her sitting on a park bench, holding 2 coffee cups. The caption read, "If you're free, I still owe you a real breakfast." I smiled. For the first time in a long time, not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because I knew I wasn't broken anymore. Just rebuilt. Stronger. Smarter. Wiser. And I had only one piece of advice for anyone reading this. Never ignore the small cracks. That's where the flood begins. The coffee was lukewarm by the time I got there, but I didn't care. Jenna looked up from her bench, her eyes catching mine like they had on the ship, steady, clear, honest. No mascara tears, no fake smiles. Just her. She handed me the cup and didn't even need to ask how I was. She knew. We sat there in the quiet hum of the morning, people jogging by, birds making noise in the trees above. The kind of calm I forgot existed when I lived with Julia. With her, everything had tension behind it, even silence. "So," Jenna said, breaking the calm with a grin, "any more cruise vacations in your future?" I smirked. "Only if the captain hands me the keys on arrival." She laughed, and it wasn't hollow. It wasn't forced. It was real. I didn't know how much I missed hearing laughter that wasn't aimed at me. We didn't talk about Julia or Mason much that day. Not directly. We both knew the wounds were still healing, and digging into them again would only slow the process. But every now and then, something slipped. Like when I said, "I don't think I'll ever trust someone fully again," and Jenna just nodded slowly. Or when she said, "He made me feel invisible," and I reached over and touched her hand, not romantically, not yet. Just to remind her that she wasn't. Something grew there. Not the kind of explosive, all-consuming thing that people write poetry about. Something quieter. Safer. A slow bloom. And for the first time, I was okay with that. Back home, Julia tried her tricks. Of course she did. She sent messages through mutual friends, little sob stories about how unfair the divorce terms were, how I had set her up. She even emailed me directly once. I made a mistake. Don't throw it all away for one slip. We had years together. I didn't answer. Because it wasn't one slip. It was years of erosion. Years of smirks, little digs, cold shoulders, selfish decisions, and secret plans. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual. She killed the version of me that trusted blindly, and now she had to live with what she'd made. Her last message came on a Tuesday night, after I posted a photo of me and Jenna hiking some mountain trail outside Sedona. Just the two of us, sun setting behind us. The kind of photo Julia used to stage with props and filters and 1,000 takes. This one? Jenna just took it and posted it. No polish. No performance. Julia's message said, "Wow. Took you no time at all, huh?" That's when I realized the final truth. She wasn't sorry. She was jealous. Not of love, of peace. Of the fact that I had it, and she didn't. I deleted the message. Didn't reply. Blocked her email. And I can't even describe how good that felt. Months passed. My job recovered. My circle grew smaller, tighter. No more toxic brunches with people pretending to like each other. No more forced smiles across the dinner table. Just real conversations, real choices, real life. I kept seeing Jenna, slowly, at our own pace. Some nights we didn't even talk. We just sat on my porch drinking wine, watching the streetlight flicker, not needing to fill the space with anything. Sometimes we talked about what could come next. Sometimes we just existed, quietly healing beside one another. One evening, long after the cruise, she asked me, "Do you regret anything?" I thought for a while. Took a sip of beer. Watched a neighbor's dog bark at nothing. "No," I said finally. "Not anymore." Because if I hadn't gone through all that, I'd still be sleeping next to a stranger thinking I was the problem. She didn't say anything. She just smiled and leaned her head on my shoulder. So here I am, a man who lost his marriage but found his peace. And if you're reading this because you're on the edge, wondering if your gut is lying to you, listen to it. It's not paranoia. It's your survival instinct screaming through the noise. Because love isn't supposed to confuse you. It's not supposed to leave you guessing. And anyone who treats your loyalty like a weakness deserves to watch you rise without them. I didn't just survive betrayal. I evolved through it. And now? Now I live louder than the lies. Somewhere between late autumn and early winter, It finally hit me. I wasn't waiting for her anymore. Not Julia. Not the apology she would never mean. Not the explanation that would never come without poison stitched into every word. I was living. One morning, I opened my drawer and found an old photo of us tucked behind some papers. Julia and me, Cancun, for years ago. We were smiling. Well, she was. I looked tired. Even then, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at it for a long time, and then I just tore it in half. No anger, no dramatic music swelling in the background. Just quiet closure. I threw it away and moved on with my day. The next week, Jenna and I went on a road trip, nothing crazy, just a few small towns, random diners, crappy motels with neon signs, the kind of places where no one cares who you used to be. Somewhere outside Flagstaff, we got caught in the rain. We pulled over near a gas station, sat in the car with the windows fogged up, laughing about the GPS sending us into the middle of nowhere. She looked at me in that moment and said, "You're not the same guy you were on that cruise." I smiled. Good. And I meant it. I didn't flinch when I heard her phone buzz. I didn't feel that tightness in my chest wondering who she was texting. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night with questions spinning in my head. It's not that I trusted blindly again. It's that I didn't need to be afraid anymore. Because I learned something Julia never did. You don't lie to the people you love just because it's easier. Back in the city, things started falling apart for her. Word got out. The story spread, not because I shared it, but because people saw the cracks for themselves. Her friend group splintered, Casey turned on her, Lily blocked her, and even her own brother stopped returning calls after Mason skipped town. Jenna told me Julia tried reaching out to her too, an apology message that read more like a PR statement than remorse. Something about healing and not letting men come between us. Jenna laughed and deleted it on the spot. Julia never understood what she broke wasn't just a marriage. It was something more sacred, safety. The feeling of coming home and not needing to check behind your back. And once that's gone, you don't rebuild it, you bury it. I heard she started dating again. Some guy from her yoga studio. Rich. Oblivious. Probably thinks she's just been through a tough time. Poor bastard. Let him find out the way I did. Let him watch the mask slip inch by inch until it's too late. But that's not my concern anymore. One night, I got a call from Jenna. Her voice was soft, a little shaky. "Can you come over?" I didn't ask why. I just drove. She'd had a rough day, court stuff with Mason, sorting custody agreements. He tried to play victim, of course. But the judge had already seen the receipts. She opened the door in sweatpants and a hoodie, no makeup, hair in a mess. Still beautiful. Real beauty. The kind that isn't crafted for Instagram. We didn't talk much. Just curled up on her couch under a thick blanket. At one point, she whispered, "You know what I hate the most?" "What?" "That I spent so many years thinking I was lucky to have him. That I thought his neglect was something I had to earn my way out of." I pulled her close. "Me too," I said. And we just sat there like that. Not trying to fix each other. Just understanding. It's wild, you know? How betrayal shatters you. How it breaks something deep inside you and scatters the pieces so far you think you'll never find them again. But if you're lucky, or maybe just patient, you don't find the old pieces. You build something entirely new. I don't believe everything happens for a reason. Some things just suck. Some things are cruel. But I do believe this. You can come back. You can choose peace. You can say never again and mean it. And if someone's reading this, sitting alone, wondering if they're crazy for feeling the cracks beneath their feet, you're not. Trust yourself. Leave if you have to. Heal if you must. And when you're ready, yell. Live louder than the lies. I didn't expect the ending to be quiet. I always imagined closure as some big, cinematic moment, fireworks, revelations, maybe even one last scream. But when it finally came, it was just silence. No more texts from her. No more lawyers. No more random photos popping up on my phone reminding me of who I used to be when I thought love meant tolerating pain. One morning, I stood at the mirror after a run, sweat dripping down my face, and I didn't see the man she left behind. I saw someone rebuilt from the ruins. Someone who learned how to breathe again without waiting for someone else's permission. And yeah, the scars are still there. Not visible, but deep, etched into my memory like fault lines. But the beautiful thing about scars? They mean you healed. I got a place outside the city. Nothing fancy. Just space. Trees. Sky. I build a small deck in the back, and every evening, I sit out there with a cup of coffee or a beer and I listen to the quiet. It's the kind of silence I never had with her. Never empty, never cold. Just calm. Jenna visits sometimes. Not every day. Not on a schedule. We don't need that. When she does, she brings stories, wine, her laugh that I still haven't gotten tired of. And sometimes, when the sun's low and the air's still, we just sit there and say nothing at all. And that's enough. There's no timeline for healing. No perfect script. You bleed, you break, you learn. And if you're lucky, you grow into something stronger than before. So here's what I know now, at the end of it all. If someone makes you feel like you're hard to love, leave. If you have to keep proving your worth, stop. You already are. If someone chooses lies over honesty once, they'll do it again. And again. And if you ever find yourself locked in a broom closet while someone else drinks champagne in a penthouse, get out. Not just from the room. From everything. Because you deserve more than survival. You deserve peace. And now, I have it. And I'll never trade it again.